Welcome back to the deep dive. We are so glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, really glad to have you. We are doing a deep dive into an explosive piece of reporting by Brian Marsh.
Yeah, published in the Digital Ledger on March 27, 2026.
Right. And the headline is just completely blunt. U.S. government unveils 100% animal translation technology. Marsh's reporting details this highly classified 9-year initiative known as Project Whisper. The government essentially set out to engineer the end of what they call the Great Silence.
And, the assumption going into Project Whisper was that translating animal cognition into human language would yield something pastoral.
Something pure, right? Like a Disney movie.
Exactly. We expected this Disney-esque communion with nature. But what Marsh's article reveals is that the medium might be a bark or a meow, but the underlying cognitive architecture is vastly more complex.
And highly critical.
Yes, highly critical. And in the case of some local wildlife, deeply, deeply paranoid.
Which we will absolutely get into because that part blew my mind.
It's terrifying, honestly.
It really is. So the mission of our deep dive today is to explore the mechanics and the total fallout of this technology, and then the immediate psychological crisis it triggered in suburban homes. And finally, the terrifying implications of turning this technology outward.
Toward the wild animals living just outside our windows.
Yeah. So let's start with the tech. The leap here cannot be overstated.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We are looking at the culmination of nearly a decade of clandestine engineering.
By the Department of the Interior.
Right, working in tandem with DARPA.
And that partnership alone should raise immediate red flags.
Huge red flag. DARPA is the tip of the spear for military research.
Right. And according to the reporting, they unveiled a device called the LUD.
The Linguistic Universal Decipherer.
Yeah. It's described as a wearable AI collar that provides real-time, zero-latency English translation.
Which is incredible tech on its own.
It is, but the funding mechanism is what really caught my eye here. The government buried the development costs for nearly a decade under the most absurd labels.
Like agricultural modernization.
Yeah, and wildfire readiness.
Mm-hmm.
But the most alarming one was, quote, emotional biosurveillance.
And that framing emotional biosurveillance, that is the key to understanding DARPA's initial objective here.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. If they were hiding funding under emotional biosurveillance, what exactly were they trying to surveil?
Well, DARPA's mandate is threat detection, right?
Right.
Intelligence gathering.
Right.
They were not trying to build a diplomatic bridge to our pets.
No, it feels less like Dr. Dolittle and more like they were uncovering a massive espionage ring.
Basically, yeah. They were attempting to turn the domestic animal population into a distributed network of passive environmental sensors.
A biological microphone.
Exactly. By mapping the acoustic neural code of a dog or a cat, you essentially gain access to a highly mobile, hypervigilant sensor.
That is already stationed inside millions of homes.
Right. The logic was that animals perceive shifts in the environment, chemical, auditory, atmospheric way before human instruments do.
So the goal was to extract actionable intelligence from the environment. Like, does the dog smell explosives?
Or did the cat notice a stranger in the house? Yeah.
But the intelligence DARPA actually extracted was, well, it was entirely useless for national security.
Completely useless. Instead of uncovering a furry espionage ring, they just uncovered pure, unfiltered psychological chaos.
And they hold this massive landmark press conference in Washington.
Right, the Department of the Interior.
Dr. John Coldwell takes the podium.
And he's flanked by Bellamy.
Yeah, Bellamy, this very dignified golden retriever wearing the glowing beta version of the LUD collar.
And there was a tabby cat there too, right?
Right. So Coldwell delivers this incredibly heavy philosophical speech.
He says this technology marks the end of the last psychologically protective lie between mankind and the domestic sphere.
Which is such a deliberate phrasing. The psychologically protective lie.
It's the foundation of human-animal relations.
Right, because we need our pets to be these simple, uncomplicated vessels for our own emotional needs.
Exactly. We project our desires onto their silence.
And Coldwell is essentially acknowledging that by stripping away that silence, the government is forcing humanity to face reality.
The empirical reality of who these animals actually are.
And man, did that empirical reality make itself known immediately.
Right in the middle of the speech.
Yes, right in the middle of Coldwell's super solemn speech, Bellamy completely derails the government briefing.
It's the best part of the article.
Bellamy locks his eyes on a cameraman standing near the front row. The collar lights up, and in this very calm, authoritative baritone, Bellamy announces, he has jerky in the left cargo pocket.
Yes. You have the absolute zenith of human scientific achievement trying to establish interspecies dialogue.
And the dog instantly halts the proceedings to litigate dried meat.
It perfectly demonstrates that while the technology successfully bridged the communication gap, the priorities are still completely misaligned.
And that's the perfect transition into the actual data from the beta tests.
Because the government released a massive white paper.
Detailing the findings from suburban homes.
And the data completely dismantles the idea of the carefree dog.
Oh, entirely. According to the behavioral analysis, dogs do not speak in a calm, observational tone.
No, they speak in a dialect of extreme hyperbole.
Yes. Their entire cognitive existence is tethered to just a few core pillars: food diplomacy, proximity to humans, perceived betrayal.
Constant weather alerts.
Right, and the absolute existential dread of being left alone for more than 4 minutes.
The white paper introduces this concept called canine overgovernance.
Overgovernance, I love that term.
Because we typically assume our dogs are just hanging out, right? Watching us live our lives.
Yeah, just vibing on the couch.
But the data shows they view themselves as the ultimate arbiters of household safety and operational flow. They are attempting to micromanage an environment they fundamentally lack the physics or mechanics to understand.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. If we look at how they categorize household objects.
Oh, the anxiety is just palpable.
It is. They don't see appliances as tools. Translated transcripts show that dogs view vacuum cleaners as mechanized domestic tyrants.
A hostile entity.
Literally, they perceive the vacuum as a monster that the human is forced to battle every single Sunday morning.
Yes, the dog's mind is a theater of constant high-stakes drama.
But nothing, and I mean nothing, triggers that drama quite like the suitcase. Federal behaviorists noted that the appearance of a suitcase initiates what they call immediate emotional martial law. Dogs literally refer to the suitcase as the cube of departure. There was this closed-door demonstration for lawmakers, and a French bulldog watched its owner zip up a rolling bag.
What did it say?
It said verbatim, "The cube of departure has returned. So this is how loyalty ends."
Wow. To understand the gravity of that statement, we have to look at how dogs experience time.
Because they live entirely in the present tense, right?
Exactly. They do not have the cognitive architecture to process the concept of a weekend business trip or a vacation.
So they don't know you're coming back.
Right. To a dog, the appearance of the cube of departure represents the sudden, inexplicable severing of their entire social structure.
It's permanent to them.
Yeah, the zipping of the suitcase is not a temporary goodbye. It is the apocalyptic end of loyalty itself.
That is heartbreaking. But, even amidst this apocalyptic dread and battling mechanized tyrants,
they still find time to judge us.
They really do. They find the energy to critique our interior design. The beta test revealed that dogs have incredibly rigid aesthetic opinions.
Marsh's article highlights that Australian Shepherd.
Oh my God, yes. This dog evaluated a family's new patio set and informed the owner this arrangement lacks courage.
Lacks courage. The critique of the patio set is devastating because it's rooted in utilitarian survival.
Right, they aren't looking at the color scheme.
No, from the dog's perspective, an object taking up physical space must serve a pack function.
Does it provide high ground visibility? Does it offer a tactical advantage?
Exactly. If it merely looks nice, it lacks courage.
Another dog looked at the family fire pit and called it a timid circle for people who fear wolves. And a Cocker Spaniel walked into a home office and described it simply as the room where you sit instead of throwing the ball.
They just reduce our complex human lives to bare kinetic utility. You see this operational mindset perfectly illustrated in the case study of Sarah Lopez and her beagle, Roscoe.
Tell us about Roscoe.
So, for the first few days of the trial, Roscoe utilized the LUD to narrate every micro event of his existence.
Just nonstop narration.
Yes. He would stare out the window and declare, "A leaf has defected from the oak. This bodes poorly."
It's like living with a tiny, hyper-anxious news anchor.
But the best detail is what happened at 2:11 a.m.
Right, when he sat bolt upright in bed.
Yeah. He woke up and announced to Sarah, "The house has made a noise consistent with ghosts or plumbing. I shall monitor both."
And he views Sarah not as an authority figure, but as what he called a semi-reliable kibble dispenser.
Roscoe's worldview encapsulates that constant threat detection loop. He insults her reliability, yet he is fully committed to standing guard against ghosts at 2 in the morning.
Which brings us to a really crucial paradox in the data.
The manic loyalty paradox.
Right, because with all this hypervigilance, the insults, the constant micromanagement, you would assume the beta testers were miserable.
You would think so.
But the polling data shows that 72% of dog owners found the LUD technology emotionally affirming. I struggled to understand that at first. Like, how is having your throwing arm mocked by a beagle emotionally affirming?
Well, behavioral analysts term this manic loyalty. The anxiety and the critiques are intense, sure, but they are fundamentally wrapped in an obsessive, unbreakable devotion to the pack.
Marsh includes that beautiful example from a dachshund owner in Denver.
Yeah, the dachshund used the collar to refer to its owner as my beloved giant son, who is brave but shaped wrong.
Brave but shaped wrong.
It is simultaneously a profound expression of love and a brutal anatomical critique.
But the owner reported that it landed as pure emotional support.
Because the core identifier was beloved.
Right. A dog might criticize your posture, your furniture, or your ability to defend the perimeter from the mailman.
Whom Bellamy referred to as a war criminal, remember?
Right. But the baseline is absolute loyalty. The critique is secondary to the devotion.
Exactly. Dog owners found a way to absorb the hyperbole because the love was still the foundation.
But that psychological resilience did not extend to cat owners. The deployment of the feline translation module triggered an absolute nationwide psychological meltdown.
The contrast in the data is just staggering.
If dogs are the anxious, well-meaning middle managers of the home,
cats are its most unsparing, hostile existentialists.
The rollout of the cat module was a comprehensive disaster for the human ego.
Marsh reports a 400% increase in owners attempting to rehome their cats within the first week of data testing.
400%.
And the root cause is that the government made a horrifying discovery about feline cognition.
Cats do not view humans as owners.
They do not view us as parents or even as pack members.
They view us as staff, as infrastructure, and as a recurring administrative disappointment.
Dr. Holdwell was actually forced to address this publicly because people were so upset. The psychiatric profiling revealed that domestic felines operate with the cognitive architecture of high-functioning sociopaths,
combined with a deep, intuitive grasp of existential philosophy.
They don't vocalize to bridge a communication gap. They vocalize entirely to condescend.
It sounds like getting a bad performance review from a roommate who doesn't pay rent.
That is exactly what it feels like.
But I want to push back on that characterization for a second, because calling an animal a sociopath implies a human moral framework.
That's a fair point.
Are they actually malicious, or are we just punishing them for being solitary hunters forced into an artificial social structure?
From an evolutionary biology standpoint, cats are obligate carnivores and solitary ambush predators.
Right. They didn't evolve the complex cooperative social structures that wolves and dogs did.
So when we integrate them into a human household, they do not map us as family.
They map us geographically and transactionally.
Exactly. But what shocked the DARPA researchers was the active malice with which they evaluate that transaction.
It goes way beyond mere efficiency.
The revelation about purring is what truly broke people, I think.
Oh man, the purring. We have spent centuries associating the purr with ultimate feline contentment.
It's supposed to be the highest compliment a cat can give you.
But the LUD callers revealed that purring is largely a deception.
Yeah, when a cat is curled on your chest, vibrating and purring.
The AI translated the underlying cognitive intent as simply repeating the word bathe over and over again. They aren't cuddling. They are demanding you improve your hygiene.
It just strips away one of the most comforting illusions of cat ownership.
The purr is not affection. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic command.
And this aligns perfectly with the broader feline taxonomy of humanity outlined in the white paper.
Oh, the categories. Cats do not recognize human individuality at all.
They sort our species into strictly utilitarian classifications.
And the classifications are brutal. You have the can openers,
The door operators.
and finally, the others.
And the researchers note that anyone categorized as an other is viewed with cold procedural contempt.
This taxonomy totally proves that evolutionary efficiency point. A human's value is dictated entirely by the immediate service they provide.
Right. If you are not actively opening a tin of food, operating a physical barrier, or radiating thermal energy,
Your existence lacks justification. You become an other.
a biological entity taking up space in their territory for no logical reason.
There was a beta tester in Northern Virginia who spent hours deep cleaning her kitchen. Her cat walks in, scans the room, and the caller translates. At last, a room that almost justifies my presence.
Yeah.
Dr. Mina Forster, a comparative neurologist, describes this as the craftsmanship of feline cruelty.
Craftsmanship is the perfect word. A dog's insults are usually accidental byproducts of their anxiety.
But a cat operates with premeditation.
A cat will study a human's insecurities, let them ripen, and deliver a devastating critique with perfect timing.
The transcripts prove it. Look at Mistress Paws, the tabby from the press conference.
Oh, Mistress Paws was ruthless.
A technician attempts to adjust her collar, and Mistress Paws says, "Remove your appendages, peasant."
She even threatened him, right?
Yes, she said, "I have considered ending you in your sleep, but your ability to operate the electric can opener remains your only redeeming quality."
The vocabulary the AI selected to represent her neural state is fascinating.
She is actively establishing an evolutionary hierarchy. It's chilling. They are so incredibly deeply offended by human flaws.
There was a Maine Coon in Maryland that maintained unblinking eye contact with its owner's visiting brother-in-law for 6 full minutes.
Just staring him down.
And finally, the cat states, "This man laughs too loudly and smells of regional failure."
Smells of regional failure.
Yes.
Translating a scent profile into the phrase regional failure is an extraordinary feat of AI mapping.
It implies the cat's olfactory senses can detect stress hormones, dietary limitations, or perhaps just a lack of socioeconomic momentum.
And synthesizes that into a sweeping geographic judgment. A tuxedo cat in Boston refused to speak for 3 days after the collar was attached.
It's just the silent protest.
When it finally broke its silence, it looked at its owner and said, "I have reviewed your recent attempt at yoga. Let us never mention it again." But the moment that truly shifts this from funny to philosophically terrifying is the cat knocking pens off a desk. When a researcher asked the cat why it continually pushed pens off the table.
The assumption was that it was practicing hunting behaviors, right? Or simply playing with gravity.
But the cat replied, "Because your species places obscene faith in order."
They aren't playing. They are tiny existential philosophers actively attempting to dismantle human constructs.
The pen is a symbol of human bureaucracy and structure. Pushing it to the floor is a calculated act of philosophical rebellion.
It's wild, but while we can analyze the sociology of this inside the home,
The reality of the LUD technology is that it cannot be contained to the living room. This is only the beginning.
the government's roadmap for Project Whisper indicates that the true existential threat isn't sleeping at the foot of our beds.
It's waiting outside. The government announced their timeline for version 2.0, slated for deployment in late 2026.
They are expanding the translation algorithms beyond domestic pets, beginning with urban wildlife.
Specifically raccoons and pigeons.
When reporters asked Dr. Coldwell why they were pushing forward with wildlife translation given the chaos in the suburbs,
His answer carried so much philosophical weight.
he said, "The world is a lonely place. We thought that by bridge building with the animals, we might feel less alone.
It is a stunning admission of humanity's cosmic isolation.
We engineered this incredibly complex technology simply to cure our loneliness."
But Coldwell's follow-up sentence is the ultimate gut punch.
He said, "We didn't realize that the animals have been judging us for 10,000 years and are finally glad to have the floor."
And their judgment is terrifying. Let's start with the pigeons.
The internal memos leaked in Marsh's article show that the pigeon module had to be indefinitely delayed.
Because the sheer volume of conspiracy theories being uttered by the pigeon population was literally crashing the DARPA AI servers.
The computing power required to process their paranoia exceeded the system's limits.
The researchers defined pigeon cognition as high-volume civic paranoia with intermittent breadcrumb demands.
If you consider the pigeon's vantage point, it makes perfect, terrifying sense.
They live on ledges, overlooking the complex, moving grid of human infrastructure.
They observe the macro movements of society, traffic patterns, construction, crowds, but they understand nothing of the underlying mechanics.
Therefore, every action below them appears as a massive, orchestrated, hostile conspiracy directed entirely at them.
They are the ultimate tinfoil hat wearers of the animal kingdom.
They are sitting on streetlights exposing the deep state, pausing only to demand a piece of a hot dog bun.
But if the pigeons are paranoid observers, the raccoons are actively militant.
The raccoon trials read like a military after-action report.
As scientists summarize their intelligence as organized opportunism with advanced latch-based reasoning. When the government initiated a proof of concept trial near a federal waste disposal site, they fitted 3 raccoons with early prototype collars.
The researchers expected to hear basic foraging instincts.
Instead, it devolved into a tactical insurgency.
The source said they immediately started speaking in rapid overlapping bursts.
They were analyzing the hinge mechanisms on the dumpsters.
They were mapping perimeter weaknesses in the chain link fence. They weren't foraging, they were planning a coordinated heist.
They operate as highly effective tactical squads. They do not view human infrastructure with awe or confusion.
They view our cities as a series of physical puzzles designed to withhold resources.
Exactly.
The LUD is not just translating words, it is giving us a window into radically divergent ways of experiencing reality.
Let's synthesize all of this. We started this deep dive looking at a technological miracle.
The end of the Great Silence. The moment humanity finally reached out and spoke to the animal kingdom.
We sought a cure for our cosmic loneliness. We wanted to commune with nature.
But what Project Whisper delivered was a brutal, high-definition mirror held up to our own species.
We discovered that our beloved canine companions are hyper-anxious micromanagers.
Our cats are hostile, transactional sociopaths.
Yes, we finally got the universe to talk back, and it turns out it's just been muttering complaints about our throwing skills and our patio furniture this entire time.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, truly unsettling thought. This thought originates from a combination of Mistress Paw's final statement at the press conference and a quiet, easily missed admission buried deep in the government's report on the raccoon trials.
Think back to what Mistress Paws the cat said right before they ended the demonstration.
She looked directly at the reporters and said, "You have all mistaken access for affection."
If our pets have possessed this level of high-functioning intellect, precise critical reasoning, and complex social understanding for 10,000 years,
why did they choose to only bark, meow, and chirp until DARPA physically forced the English language onto their neural pathways?
Perhaps the Great Silence was never a biological limitation.
Perhaps it was a highly strategic, 10 millennia long grift. They knew our desperate need for unconditional love.
They didn't need a translation device.
They just needed us to keep believing the psychologically protective lie, so that we would keep opening the cans, buying the expensive kibble, and paying the mortgage on their atrium.
It suggests a 10,000-year strategic silence. They didn't lack the capacity to speak. They simply recognized that silence was the most efficient way to manage us.
So tomorrow morning when you walk into your kitchen, turn on the lights and look down at your silent, loving companion. Just remember, they're conducting a performance review, and you're probably failing. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. See you next time.